Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today, it is a great pleasure to have Rashmi Bhatt back with us.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste,
It's
namaste.
been quite a while.
It has been quite a while.
And I remember you told me so many wonderful things previously, but I would like you to, being a Renaissance man as you are, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the past. But you were here in the 60s, huh?
Yeah, I came in the 60s. I was born in 60, but I came in 62. But in the 50s, my sisters, they were here for a few years, and then they went back to Rajpipara, which is my hometown in Gujarat. But later on, we all settled down here in 62.
In 62.
In 1962.
Father and mother?
Well, they used to come here since the 40s, late 30s. They got married here in 42 under Sri Aurobindo's and Mother's blessings in 42. And they used to come regularly, but they were also based in Rashmi.
You were put in the boarding?
We were never in the boarding. We were always independent that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, the boarding life is extremely interesting, which we missed on that. Did you have friends who were in the boarding?
I had a number of people I knew in boarding, yes.
Yeah.
And boarding was strict, but it was very nice.
Yeah, very pleasant and a lot of fun. But we were always outside. Though we used to have our meals in corner house or dining room, but otherwise we missed the boarding part of it.
Could you tell me a few stories about the older sadhaks that you knew that are not the most popular, of course, covered endlessly by people?
Correct.
Tolini, Champaklal, and
Exactly, yeah.
What about those you knew?
Well, the lesser-known sadhaks with whom I had the fortune of meeting, and they were, maybe then I didn't feel it so much, but today I can say that it was a blessing to be with such sadhaks who were deep into their sadhana. And one of them is, the painter Krishnalal, the painter, who painted many portraits. His younger brother, Vasudev Bhatt, they were family friends to us. So he was the younger brother, both of them, of course, they have passed away. They were very senior. They were friends of my father and my grandfather. So Vasudev ji, who was in charge of the gallery, Ashram Art Gallery, where you have it in...
This was the old gallery before this new
Exactly,
one, yes.
Exactly. The old gallery which is next to the corner house, next to the playground. So there, Vasudev ji was in charge. But he was very fond of me as being grandson of his good friend Dr. Bechalal. So he used to, every full moon day, almost every full moon day, we used to pass it together. He used to take me after corner house for a walk on the beach with the full moon spreading its charm and magic on the Bay of Bengal. And we used to just sit there, and he would recount to me stories of Mahabharata or old stories of ashram in the 30s and the 40s, and tell stories how they used to interact with my grandfather and Sri Aurobindo. And it was so nice to have such elderly, affectionate people, who sort of accompanied all your early years of your life, and with so much of love and respect, and such clean full moon evenings, so simple. And today I relish them a lot. these evenings
And who were some of the others?
well, amongst the
You were
others,
fairly close.
fairly close, they are quite unknown, but they are real giants inside, like Kironda. Kironda is a Bengali gentleman, was a Bengali gentleman, who started the ashram paper factory, who started the ashram soap factory, who started many departments in the 40s. And but he was a very low profile person. So, but Bhatti does write about him a whole story in his Amongst the Not So Great.
Yes.
So, but still, very few people talk about him. But he was such a genius, and he was a man of science and chemistry and physics, and he started all these factories. But then, the last part of his life, he was, can you imagine? He was cleaning the garbage, the waste, the vegetable waste in corner house, and he was taking the garbage and using all the how do you say, the organic waste to his fields, that he had some land before Oroville, and he used to use that as manure in his. So, but he was filthy. He used to deal with all this garbage and always taking sacks full of it on his cycle, and he was an amazing person, but so much of sincerity in his work, and most quietly, didn't at all seek popularity as many of us do. He was very low profile, just cycled kilometers away to his gardens and used this garbage. So he did apparently very dirty jobs like garbage. And
Did you know anything of his contacts with Mother? Or sure?
well, he used to know Dr. Bachelal, my grandfather. So he used to tell me, the Dr. Bachelal used to tell me like this, like that, and so nothing more. I don't know a lot more about him. I never really chatted with him like I did with Vasudevji or Parichanda. Parichanda was another person whom I have a lot of deep respect for, that man. And I remember just one scene which sort of stays impressed upon my mind is, every Saturday evenings we had movies, no, in the ashram playground. So there was quite a bit of excitement in the teenagers, and we were kids, and so there was quite a low vital excitement about the Saturday evening. Lot of things happened that preceded the 7:45 show time, and during, and so there was we used to all look forward to that. I remember one Saturday I had a dinner. It was somebody's birthday, and after the dinner we were supposed to be going to see the movie. And Parichanda used to stay in the back side of the school, no? You remember?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Parichanda?
I knew him very well.
Ah, you knew him?
I've written a homage to him, in fact. Just recently.
Have I read that book?
No, it's not yet in India.
Ah, okay.
But I knew him so well.
So Parichanda, we were going to the movie, so we were in the peak of our excitement, a very banal excitement, for a movie and all that, after a dinner. And we were crossing that road, and I suddenly just turned my face, and in the dim light of his room, I could see Parichanda reading the Life Divine in the total silence of his room, and while we were all excited for the movie. And so it was such a huge difference, and it really impacted me and stays still impressed. The total concentration and sadhana that he was doing in the silence of his room on a Saturday evening while the whole world is, Saturday evening fever.
Sure, yes, of course.
Saturday night fever.
Saturday night fever.
So, but Parishanda was so quietly concentrated, reading aloud in the dim light of his room. I could see it from the road, and I felt the huge difference of level of consciousness of me as a kid, teenager.
I dedicated my first book on plumerias to him.
Ah.
And he received it and he said, if I had known you were going to dedicate it to me, I would not have accepted, but now I'm very grateful.
Oh, really? Such a humble person.
So humble, yes. Now tell me a little bit more about some of these older people. Even your schoolmates would be nice that I haven't heard much about.
Another person with whom I had Krishna Kumar, he was a teacher of the ashram school. He was one of the pioneer teachers of the free progress system, So he is the younger brother of Arun Bhai, who used to do many of the recordings. Last time in my last interview, I was mistaken saying that it was he who recorded all the entretien. It was partly him and partly Vishwanath Da, the engineer, not the architect. The engineer Vishwanath.
I know him well.
Lahiri. Okay, you remember. So he was, Arun Bhai was partly responsible, but not entirely. So Krishna Bhai was my teacher, and I owe a lot to him. A real simple sadhak, but fully dedicated. All the other teachers were Gupi, you remember Gupi, Guru Prasad?
Yes, Guru
The
Prasad,
French guy.
who then moved to
Auroville, correct.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah. So, Guru Prasad, Tanmay Da, Tanmay?
Yes.
The French journalist.
I've had people speak about him. He passed away before I could interview him.
Ah, okay, what a pity.
But I understand that he was the proponent for the free system.
He was the pilot, the protagonist, and Mother has guided him, and Krishna Bhai, who were the other ones, Kake, Promise. So these were the other, but Tanmay was definitely one of the protagonists.
Did you take part in the free progress?
Yeah.
And could you tell me a little of that?
Yeah, the free progress system is one of the most extraordinary system of education, and I'm so blessed to be part of that system. And even if I just spent 3-4 years in that section of our academic passage, but it has become the most important part of my I did from kindergarten to flower room to school to knowledge. I did the whole, the whole course. So those 3-4 years in the free section has completely formed me even more than any other rest of the years, So that has had a very strong impact on my forming years. So I still owe all that I am today thanks to that free progress system.
And at what point did you become interested in astronomy?
Well, precisely when I was in the free progress system, and that's thanks to Gupi, who really invited me to come and be part of astronomy classes. So, and that astronomy classes were so funful, it's full of packed with fun, fun of discovery, the joy of imagination, creative imagination, fantasy. It was so much fun, we also made the Apollo 11 module, the spaceship. We constructed it with right proportions taking, and it was a project that even Mother blessed. That the spaceship, the rocket, the Apollo 11 module, So that, and we did also a submarine that Mother blessed, the submarine, and then we did so many things, projects that normally in a school you would never end up doing these things. But that was, it was like a playground. Really, we were enjoying all the classes. But one of the deepest aspect of my astronomy class was he used to make us listen to Savitri music, and he used to choose the lines and Sunil Das Savitri music, and he would sort of just make us relax, meditate. And I don't know why, maybe I don't know if he told me that, and I wonder if you or Nilisha have ever had any connection with Savitri, Sunil Das music and astronomy. Have you ever connected these three? No? So, well, I don't know, maybe somebody has, but for me it was spontaneous, this connection of Savitri, Sunil Das music and astronomy. So I used to, in these moments of meditation after the astronomy class, we had a meditation class. And we used to just lie down. Can you imagine in an outside school, a teenager lying down during the full academic morning session, lying down, listening to music, and these are strange things for outside schools.
Yes.
But those were the most important experiences that made me even more crazy today at 60.
And in those days,
Yeah.
there was no pollution.
There was no
Very little pollution, if any.
pollution.
So you
Pollution.
could see the stars.
Yeah, but this was, that's true. But this was in the school time, in the morning session. So we used to meditate and
And you
then,
didn't look at the stars at
yeah.
with Savitri music?
Yeah. No, that I did it on my own terrace. And I used to just travel, voyage through the spaces, the dark spaces, and use Sunil Das music. And I used to literally fly up into the sky. As a teenager, in a very innocent way, not even very tantric way that you go, leave the body. And it was just a very innocent schoolboy's wish to explore.
Yes.
And it was so easy for me to leave my body and explore the dark spaces and, travel through the stars, the space between stars, and Sunil Das music, which really helped me to space out. And that was the artistic part of astronomy. But I mean, the observation was very important. So we used to have morning classes where we have theory, and in the evening we used to go up on the library terrace, and there was one telescope. It was a tiny little thing, nothing very powerful, but it was powerful enough to see the craters on the moon, the satellites of Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. And so those were very interesting. Sometimes he used to call us at 3 in the morning because there was a lunar eclipse. So we were observing the lunar eclipse. So he used to make an appointment, ask our family, of course, permission. And we used to go up to the terrace and enjoy the fabulous excitement of watching a lunar eclipse at 3 in the night, So that made it real fun. So these are the wonderful aspects of free progress system where you don't have any time schedule very fixed that way, and we had immensely fabulous teachers so dedicated to us, and they used to work like this. Can you imagine? He was a teacher even 3 in the night. So that's the kind of commitment they had. And we were really fortunate to
In
have.
your experience, is there much of it left today? Isn't in your experience?
Oh, well, I'm not very much in touch with the school right now, but day before yesterday, I was there with my wonderful teachers of physics and mathematics and history, Bengali, like Swadesh Da, Debranjan Da. And we went out for a picnic, and they told me that they need teachers. They need teachers. They've asked me to come back and teach, and so they need teachers. There are not too many teachers. We had the privilege of having sometimes even one-to-one class. No?
Is that even a possibility for you with all your musical experience to come back?
Oh yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, definitely, because I've already, every time I come, I'm invited to talk on different aspects of art history or creativity in music, or what happens behind a show that you pay 1,000 rupees for a ticket, but all that happens behind a show that you attend or a concert that you go to, all the things that happen behind the scenes, So I explained to them, and it's so very important to know really how much the show is just the tip of the iceberg. But what happens behind a show, it maybe.
Did you give a talk this time?
No, this time no. My mother passed away, so I was very busy with all the bureaucracy. I didn't have time but every time I either give a talk in the school or I go to the kindergarten and enjoy 1 full hour of creativity, musical creativity with the children. And I enjoyed it every time. I go there since 25 years now.
Could you tell us a little bit about Tarun Bhai, because
Tarun Bhai.
I interviewed him.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
Fabulous
an extraordinary interview, wasn't it?
I know. I remember that moment when you recounted to him either a line from Savitri at a certain point of the interview, and he never looks at you while you interview, no? He talks like that, no? And then he was listening to the line that you quoted, and he went into a deep reflection. And after a silence, he says, "Oh, that's so fascinating." He was so deep into his sadhana, the last part of his life, when you interviewed him, that it was such a pleasure to watch him sit in the ashram, and you can almost see a movie in his head, that his reflections, his meditation. It was almost a movie, You could see that he was meditating.
Remember where he sat?
Yeah, exactly.
He always sat in the
Same place. And he was deep into meditation.
And Harry told me that there are 4 things that Sri Aurobindo said were necessary for the supramental manifestation.
Oh, he told
And
me.
he said, I've achieved all 4, but I have to live to 128 years to manifest them.
Okay.
And he didn't get to that point.
Oh, wow.
But he had achieved those 4.
Wow, amazing.
No one ever told me that.
No, cha. But
So what about his musicality and teaching you tabla or?
yeah, Turunda was my geography teacher. He was a brilliant mind. He used to write also a lot uh, he used to write, and many of his writings have been accepted by BBC radio, and they have become quite famous, his writings. So he used to write a lot, all science fiction, or he used to fantasize a lot. He had a lot of fantasy, that man. Amazing fantasy. And he was our geography teacher. So, what would a geography teacher do in a geography class? So, every time we used to have so much fun discovering all physical aspects of geography. So, and each time he used to give us a homework, which would be three things. One is find out. So we have to find out through reading and seeing a movie, or just really finding out informations on the Himalayan or the Andes mountains, and just make an effort and find out. That is find out. The second question was think and write. So he would say, can you guess why the earth is round? Just think and write, but you shouldn't read any. So, or why the volcanoes erupt. So you have to use your imagination and whatever science you have in your mind, and just think and write. So that question has formed my intellectual formation in such a investigative way. I used to really investigate in science why the mountain top was like this, or why is it like this. So these are the questions that you were forced to think and not just copy and write. So you use your mind and scientific explanation that you give yourself, that you write down. So these questions were they used to force you to think, to fantasize, and think and write is a very important question. It has even remained in my mind today, think and write. So that was the second. And the third was we used to draw maps of countries so we have to really visualize the formation of the geographical aspect of the country, and we have to paint it. Yeah. So the artistic aspect of how well you paint, he will see the colors, the blending of the colors. So all these things happens in a geography class. So Torunda was not only a music teacher, because he used to teach sitar and tabla. He used to play both of them. Of course, tabla was his main instrument. His teacher was one of the founders of a style of tabla playing. His name is Ustad Karamutullah Khan Sahab. So, and that's a great lineage of tabla players in it takes birth. It was founded in Calcutta. So yeah, he was also a tabla player. He never used to really perform because he didn't feel at ease on the stage, and he would always send me. And if any good musicians come, he used to always send me. You go, you go, you go. I said, Torunda, you are my teacher. You should go and perform. No, I'm not interested. So he used to send me, and so after he taught me, I was, let's say, one of the main tabla players of the ashram. And in the south, they don't have tabla players, because in the south they have mridangam. The main classical percussion is mridangam. But tabla is the North Indian. So whenever, even a Tamil gentleman composer, he needs tabla, he used to contact the school, and the school used to send me to do some recording on the All India radio, or eminent artists from all over India, they come to offer to Sri Aurobindo and the mother in the ashram. So I used to always play. So sometimes I used to have like 5-6 shows coming up, and contemporarily, and I used to leave my class and do the rehearsals, and so it was quite quite a big, massive part of my activity in the 70s.
How old were you at this time?
Well, I was like in my teenage, yeah, and so uh, I had really the privilege because a lot of very prominent artists from all over India, they used to come here and I used to perform with them in the Hall of Harmony. But, I was just a student, but that's all they had. Beggars are no choosers, so they have to accept it. One day I remember I was coming back from marathon in the sports ground. We finished marathon. No, it wasn't marathon, it was a half marathon. So we came back, and after that I had a concert at Hall of Harmony, 8:15. So I just didn't even have the time to go home, have a shower, put my kurta. No, I just went with my sports dress right on the stage, and I performed with Pandit Omkarnath Thakur's senior most disciple. And we started the performance with a very slow tempo, adagio ma troppo, very slow, very slow. It's like, it's called in Indian technical terms, it's called Ati Bilambit Laya. So that is very slow tempo of a rhythmic cycle of 12 beats, and they go so slow as din, tat tat din, 2, tat tat dha. So you see, this is the tempo and 12 beat cycle. So you really need to be concentrated. You don't have any external help, neither how do you say, leggio. The read, as in the Western music, you read the music. You have to be so concentrated and keep the very slow tempo and maintain it. And I've just finished a half a marathon. And so while he was improvising on this 12-beat cycle, I caught a cramp. But I remember Bob the tall guy, he used to always be in my programs. He had just arrived then in those years. So Bob was there, and Bob used to sway in the Hall of Harmony with the rhythm. He used to really enjoy, and I used to enjoy watching him. And so it was nice to see him. He was always there in all my shows. So suddenly I caught a cramp, and he was deep into meditation in his music and concentrated. And I caught a cramp sitting cross-legged on the stage for such a long, and this first part was so long, and I caught a cramp which was slowly growing worse and worse and worse. At a certain point, it went so bad that I had to stop playing. And he was still deep into meditation. So thank God there was one guy, physiotherapist, who was there. He sort of massaged me, and there was a small pause of 15 minutes, and then I resumed So that's one of the, when you are doing a full sports and you are directly from the semi-marathon, you come to the stage. So that was a funny experience. But that was, my full life was totally dedicated to.
And Tarun taught you all of this?
Torunda and Shobhadi.
And Shobhadi, yeah, I'd like to talk about her.
Yeah, Shobhadi, oh my God. Shobhadi was very close to me. She was almost like my mom. And yeah, very, very affectionate person. And I was close to her mother also. And her mother was such a silent person. She has recounted about her mother in her talks to you. Yes. So Shobhadi was definitely, I learned my vocal, my singing, I learned from her. And I had the privilege she took me to Sunilda, she took me to Sahanadi. Then there another very unknown gentleman whom I would like to talk about, who was a poet, who was a politician, and a singer. And he was a very good friend of Dilip Kumar Roy. His name is Nalini Sarkar. So he was also called Nalini Da, like Nalini Kanta Gupta. But they were all more or less the same age group. So he was a giant in Bengal, because he was very friendly with Nazrul Islam, who is the poet, national poet of Bangladesh today. And he was a contemporary of Tagore. So this Nalinida Sarkar was very famous figure outside. In ashram he was. So I used to sometimes go to his house for rehearsals, because his daughters, they were very good singers. So we used to practice, and sometimes he used to assist all our rehearsals. If there was any intervention to be done, he would come, sit and correct me. So I had the privilege to have such people who used to sometimes play with me or correct me. And if I was not free, they would corrupt me with a roshogulla or a raskadam and see, we are making these for you, so please come. Because I was very busy, because my schooling was getting disturbed, my sports was getting disturbed. But they would always find a way to tempt me and get me to the rehearsal. So these were such fabulous privileges to work with such wonderful people. And another very great musician that ashram had, nobody knows about him. The older people would know him. He was, he was learning under Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib. Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib was almost like the father figure of contemporary in the 20th century. He was almost like the father figure of all the great musicians of India. So all the great ustads, pandits, they learnt under him, like Pandit Nikhil Banerjee, Ravi Shankar, Ali Akbar Khan, all Chaurasia, all these were under the huge protection of Alauddin Khan, who was a wonderful musician, totally free of Muslim, Hindu problems. He was such a simple heart, but very evolved soul. He used to bash off all the barriers between Hindu and Muslim. He used to go to Hanuman Mandir or Ganesh Mandir or Shiva Mandir and sit there and play for Lord Shiva. And he's a Muslim. Can you imagine? Such barriers are totally blown away by these great musicians. So one of the senior disciples was Pandit Nandalal Ghosh. And he left everything and he came to the ashram, left all his career and started working with the flowers. He used to trim the flowers in the ashram main building. I don't know if you have seen him, you're a flower man. So he used to work in the ashram main building, tall man with pajama and always white dress. And he was working with Purichanda. His name is Nandalal Ghosh. But whenever I had rehearsals with his son, whose name is Devi Prasad Ghosh, Devi Prasad Ghosh was always a latecomer like me. And so sometimes when I was there on time and Devi Prasad Ghosh was not on time, he would see me waiting there and he would say, "Don't worry, I will sit with you, I'll practice for you." And such a great ustad, he used to take up his sarod and play, and I would start practicing. And in those years, I never realized the value of such things. But you see, with such ease and humility, these things used to happen. And that's, today for me, it's such a precious thing, but I don't see that anymore, these magical moments. Maybe people who live here, they may be seeing that, but these are very precious moments for me.
Namaste.